start with Hazard. Hazard will be a recurring thing. Alexi Cenicero says, I think Ohm really had a great point on people's patience with Hazard. I would like to know Lucas's reasoning for the fans' patience with Hazard compared to other players who have done 10 times more than what he has done. So, Lucas, just to bring you up to speed, what Ohm's take was from last night's podcast, it was that he didn't understand why people are so patient with Hazard and finding, or just basically being apologists for him and defending him and saying he was baffled by that. I told him that I haven't seen those people much. Maybe his mentions are different from what I've seen. Hazard is scrutinized heavily, but again, I could have different people in my mentions. So, what is your take on fans' patience with Hazard?
Right. Well, I would say to that I get his point in the sense that I don't see as much anger towards Hazard as I saw, for example, with Bale. I think he is clearly his main example in this for his argument is probably Bale. I don't know if he actually mentioned his name or not, but
he did.
Okay, well, it's fairly clear, and I see his point when he says that. Yeah, I haven't seen as much anger towards Hazard as it happened with Bale, but in my opinion, people were angry towards Bale, while at the same time people just don't care about Hazard, and I don't know the worst of the two. Is it worse to receive hatred or anger or frustration because of your actions and your performances, or is it worse to have fans simply not caring about you because they just don't expect a single thing from you anymore as a player? And to me, this is the way Real Madrid fans have been behaving towards Hazard for the last year or so. Maybe the situation will probably change about after the whole laughter situation with his former Chelsea teammates and all. Maybe the whole situation will change towards more of a frustration and anger thing than simply not ignorance. I don't know the proper word for it, but yeah, simply just not caring about what the player can do on the pitch or whether or not he's actually available or not. So to me, maybe it's actually worse to be simply not cared about than receiving anger and frustration. At least when fans show frustration and anger towards you, they actually care. Where right now they probably didn't care about Hazard anymore, and maybe they'll start caring now after what happened right after the whistle. But it's a strange point. But yeah, I can see Om's point when he says that Hazard hasn't received as much hatred as Bale did during his last season. Yeah, I can see his point, and he's probably right there. Yeah.
Well, I think it's also like, I think Ohm was saying, like, he doesn't understand the patience at all. Like, why does he get to walk into the lineup, and then why do fans are so right. Why did so many fans think that he should start this game and all that? And by the way, especially after the whole laughter thing, a lot of people were really upset with that. If they weren't upset already, they became, it was like adding fuel to the fire for them. I saw a couple. There were a couple of extreme takes to me that I saw last night as well. One was that Hazard is just terrible, and that's actually that's not even an extreme. That's actually kind of true. That's an extreme that's probably leaning towards true. And the other extreme was that let's not blame Hazard, let's blame everything. Like, the whole system was bad. Like, what is he supposed to do and all this? And me, I love being a centrist. I'm kind of in the middle. I think both of those things are true, actually. Like, I think, like, if you put Hazard, like, if you replace Hazard with another attacker in our team yesterday, I would be shocked if you would have done anything more than Hazard. I also think Hazard just did zero. Like, he did nothing. He didn't take players on. There was a stat that circulated by UEFA that he covered the most distance on the pitch of any Real Madrid player. The bar was low.
Yeah.
But he did. So it's not like the effort wasn't there, but was the right effort there? Were the right decisions there? He didn't. He had far more touches than Vinicius, but he actually had less dribbles attempted. So I
Yeah,
think I think it's
just a
both
quick
that he
point.
sucked, and I also think that we just sucked in general. And I don't know if like you replace him with somebody else, if anything would have changed. I just think everything was bad yesterday. That I was really disappointed with just everybody and everything. That's honestly how I felt.
Right, but just a quick point. The fact that Hazard was on the pitch, even if he's not entirely he shouldn't be blamed entirely for the loss and all, and everyone was poor and the tactics were wrong and all that. Just a quick point, and the fact that when Hazard is on the pitch, that means that Vinicius' potential is not being maximized, because
Yes, I agree.
we know that Vinicius is, so that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. The fact that Vinicius had to play as a right winger last night, okay, as an offensive offensive right back, I should say, offensive right back and full back on the right, because we were playing with three center backs and all, but the fact that Vinicius was deployed there happened just because of the fact that Hazard was playing. And if Hazard wasn't given the chance to play, maybe no, 100% certain that Vinicius would have been played on his most natural position, and on the to be quite honest, pretty much the only position where he's been comfortable for as a Real Madrid player. So you're not maximizing Vinicius. Vinicius was the most notable player against Liverpool. I know that he hasn't been that same player ever since, but it hurts me that you had to play Vinicius on that weird fullback position just to accommodate Hazard when Hazard hasn't proved anything. So that's one thing that frustrates me a little bit.
There was that, and also like why. I mean, this part has been discussed to death, but like for some reason he felt like he needed to go with three at the back, which means Vinicius had a right wing back role, which means he had to help Militao against Mason Mount, which neither of those two were defending Mason Mount well, which meant Eder Militao was making these runs he shouldn't have been making, a lot of everything. I also think here's the problem with Hazard now, and this was I was thinking about this a lot, but then Zidane kind of confirmed it in the post game presser, where somebody asked him, how do you get the Hazard of Chelsea back? And Zidane's response was, you just have to play him a lot, basically, to get him back into rhythm. And so that's where the problem arises to me, in that their solution to this is going to be he has to play through it. You have to play him through it. Even if he's bad for like 10 games in a row, he has to play, get rhythm, get momentum so that he can achieve his best self. And that in theory makes sense, obviously, because that's how players work. They need match finishing, but that in itself creates huge problems, right?
Exactly.
I also
and that point could also be made about Jovic, Rodrigo, and other youngsters, Odegaard, who hasn't been getting a chance to play, and whenever they've been given the chance to play, they haven't performed, because obviously they have only played like 10 minutes for the last 20 games. So that point should also be valid with other players. Okay, I can see the point about Hazard,
correct,
but I can also see it with Odegaard.
Correct.
So that's a huge issue for me.
That's and that's why I think it's an issue. And I also think, and that's obviously just based on his name, Eden Hazard. And the other thing is this Vinicius Hazard sample size. We have a lot of it now. When both of them play together, not once have both of them shown. And so if you want to play through that, be my guest. But there's going to be a tipping point at some point if he doesn't perform, where Zidane has to look at Hazard the same way he started to look at Bale, in that, okay, your name doesn't matter anymore, and you're just not going to be in a position where your name automatically qualifies you on the team sheet, right? Because Bale at one point, Bale, because of his name, was playing all of those games. Zidane himself was saying, remember when Zidane first took over, he said BBC are undroppable, they're untouchable. Over time, the trust was lost, and I think that Hazard will get to that point at some point, assuming he even stays healthy, which I don't even know if is even going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like we've reached an obvious turning point about Hazard's career in Real Madrid. I'm not even talking about his performances on the pitch and all. I feel like it will be very tough, if not impossible, for him to earn the trust of the fans and the love of the fans again. And I feel like he's and the press also is also a big factor here. And I feel like it's gonna be very tough for him. And probably the club will try to part ways with him. It's not going to be easy to do that. Obviously, we can talk about that later maybe, but it's gonna be almost impossible for him to earn the trust of fans, media, and to be quite honest with you, maybe even some of his teammates back, because his teammates probably didn't love the pictures of him with Kurzuma laughing and all after the game, like he didn't care. When we've seen players like Valverde taking the game very personally when he came into the pitch and trying to put the team on his back and all, and then you go to the dressing room, look at yourself and see those pictures. Oof, it's a tough picture to look at, and it's gonna be almost impossible for Hazard to earn the trust of his and the love of his teammates, the coach, the staff, the board, then the fans and the media. Like, it's going to be very tough, if not impossible. Yeah.
Well, there's 4 games left in the league. He's going to start all 4 of those games, if I had to guess. Do you think that these last 4 games are in some ways... to me, that's kind of enough sample size, really, to know where he's going to be next season. In the sense that if he plays well in these 4 games, then at least that gives us something to cling on to for next season. And if he doesn't, I don't need to see more sample size. I'm being really honest. I don't need to see more sample size beyond these 4 games, because I don't think we can use match fitness as an excuse anymore. Now he's been back since that Real Betis game. Zidane said he's fit. Everyone says he's fit. So we can't even use that as an excuse right now, neither can the club. These 4 games, if he doesn't perform in these 4 games, then I don't have any hope for him next season. And even now, my hope's pretty low, but I will just give him at least any 1% benefit of the doubt. If he comes in and he rises in these 4 games and does something, and Real Madrid win the title, that changes the discourse a little bit. But how much do you buy these reports that Florentino? I don't like. I think this was actually reported by El Chiringuito. So who, by the way, amazing performance last night with that video. Did you see it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah.
Unbelievable
They're
stuff.
always very entertaining to watch. Yeah, they're always very entertaining, to be honest.
I just like.
It's a bit of a guilty pleasure, but they're very entertaining to watch.
Incredible acting. I don't know. You can put me for example, Manscaped ads, the ones that we record. Owen and Matt get frustrated with me sometimes because it takes us so long to record it, because I just keep bursting out laughing at the word balls or just something like that. I could never keep a straight face. I wouldn't last 5-10 seconds on the show without bursting out laughing. Pedro, the way he just keeps his frame the whole time is super impressive. Incredible acting job. Anyways, I think they are the ones that reported that, and obviously Pedro every day is coming out saying, trust me when I say Mbappe will be a Real Madrid player next season, blah, blah, blah. We said that again last night. He also said that Florentino was really upset, and it kind of hurt him the way Hazard was laughing after the game, because they put so much trust and faith into him, and that he's going to be on the market. Do you believe that?
Yeah, well.
Do you believe that? And also, do you think if he is on the market, there is a market for him?
Oh, about being on the market, for sure, but there's zero market for Hazard at this point. With the whole financial context and his demands for a new contract, considering that he's tied for 20 million a year until 2025, he's not going to walk out of that unless a similar offer comes around, and a similar offer is not going to happen for him. It's impossible. It'll be almost impossible for Real Madrid to get rid of Hazard's contract without actually paying him maybe 50% of his future salary, because no club is going to be willing to give him 15 or 20 million a year in this current financial context, and also his last 2 years of football. It's impossible. There's no market for Hazard. The same way there's no market for Bale.
I can't think of anyone either. I mean, Bale is actually easier to offload because he's scoring goals for Tottenham, so they might be convinced that they can keep him for one more year until his contract runs out. He's actually easier to get rid of at this point than Hazard is, right?
Yeah, way easier, yeah.
All right, we're going to come back to Hazard later in this podcast. Mahdi Al Abdeloui says, a non-Chelsea / transfer, etc. question for you both. What did you think about Hakimi's comments this week about the club not wanting him and having first refusal on him? The latter is news to me. Does that mean the club is hoping to bring him back in the future?